Hi, it's John here from Speedy Brick, and I really enjoyed building this series of Formula One cars from Speed Champions. I've got all 10 cars built. I've got my favourites, but I really did enjoy it, and there's quite a lot of differentiation between each car, which is good. There's lots of similarities as well. There's lots of things that are basically the same, but I did enjoy them, and I've come up with a bit of a rating system for them based on a whole bunch of different criteria. I've got the teams here on the left hand side from McLaren through to Sauber, so in the order of the 2024 season. And the criteria are things like printed elements, stickers, or decorations, did they get the livery right? Does the car look like the Formula One car? How many pieces did we get in the set? Since the price is all the same for all of them, that's a cost per piece ratio, I guess. How many building steps were there? So was it fun to do? Was it complicated? That sort of thing. Is it robust? There's only one set that's not really that robust, which is kind of a bit of a pity for that one set. The design elements, were there things that were designed into the car that were part of the livery? So like a brick built element. So that was one thing. How many studs are showing? That's kind of a negative thing. If there's lots of studs showing in the wrong places, that's kind of negative. The building complexity. So was it a fun thing to be building? Was there lots of nice techniques being used? If you're new to Speed Champions, are you going to learn something? So that was one of the criteria that I thought was interesting. The colours themselves and the livery. How close to the real thing are they? And then the overall design, and then we'll kind of set them in from 1 to 10. But let's have a look at the individual cars, dish out some points, and then at the end I'll show how it ends up. And then we also want to look at the dimensions. So in 2022, the Formula One cars of this era kind of got standardized size-wise, and then they have this maximum size, 5.63 meters long, 2 meters wide, and 0.9 meters high. And if we want to convert that to a Speed Champions car, we can look at this kind of 27th scale. And that means that the car should be 208.5 millimeters long, 74 millimeters wide, and 33.3 millimeters high, which is actually very, very small. So that's quite a challenge. None of the cars meet these two dimensions, but all the cars meet this width. So all the cars are 27th scale in the width, which is good. So now let's have a look at kind of the way that the rating system is working. I've got the scale up here for each car, and the variables really are the height. There's a little bit of a variable with the length, but the most variables are the height. And as you can see here, the cars are too short by about 2/3 of a stud. Not a whole stud, but about 2/3 of a stud. And height-wise, they're about 15 millimeters too high. So that's about 4.5 plates high. So let's call it 4 plates too high, which is a massive amount. Not much we can do about that with some of these designs, but we might be able to drop them 1 or 2 plates, but 4 plates might be a struggle. In this element, this over here, we've got all the criteria, and I've highlighted where there is either the most or the least. Like here, we've got printed elements. Now it's not the least, it's kind of middle ground, but they've got the most stickers on the McLaren out of all of the cars. And robustness, this is the least robust car, so it's got 5 out of 10, and it's got the most studs showing, 6 out of 10. And the studs, I mean, it's these elements here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have not included these ones in here. I've just included those. The other things that I find interesting is kind of the building complexity and this brick built design elements, just the way that the car has come together and how the shapes are working and that sort of stuff. That's what I mean about this kind of brick-built design elements. If there's an airflow or there's a piece showing, I mean, in the real car, this bit's blue, so they've done that. That's quite good. There's some other elements that are less good, but you know they've been thinking about it. So let's go through all the cars, and then we can look at how did it end up in the end. So the Ferrari's got or has received a lot of love from the Lego design team. It's got the most printed elements, and together it's got the most decorations, it's got the most pieces, it's got the least number of studs showing. It's a joint thing, and it's these pieces here, and they didn't need to be there either. So they could have been taken away if they just added one more little complexity to or two more parts. They could have been slightly different. Building complexity, it's not that complex a build. This bit here is kind of the only complexity in the build, really. So I've rated that 7, but the livery is really good and the overall design is really good. So it rates pretty highly, and it's one of the best looking cars, but it's also the highest. So it's 51 millimeters. So that's 3 millimeters taller than the previous one. So that's some of the factors that we have to consider. Next up is the Red Bull. Here we've got an overall design of 7.5, but the livery is 9.5 for the design, but 7 for the livery, and that's because the color is wrong. And I've got 9 here for the brick-built design, and that's because of this line through here. They've got this airflow going through the car, which I really appreciate that they've done that. And the shaping through here is nice, and the way all these stickers join up together, I think that's really good. And we've got these nice printed elements here. So overall, brick-built design elements, and the livery, they kind of cancel each other out a little bit to give us a really high rating for this car and the overall design. And with the Mercedes, we've got, this is actually the longest car. I'm not sure how that ended up, but it's just slightly longer than the others. It's 204 millimeters instead of 203 millimeters. So I'm not sure where that comes out, but I've kind of measured them all with the same ruler, and that's the way it works. It's also the second tallest at 50 millimeters. So I don't know how that's working either. But some of the cars have got a little bit of variability in them. There's some little tricks that are going into building these cars that give us that variability. So that's quite good. It's not very many building steps, 99, and we'll see later on the most is quite a lot more than that. But I think overall this car design looks really good. I really like these printed elements here. I'm not that much of a fan of this bit where these two shapes join together. We've got a nice straight line going through there and then turns into a curve. I think that there's some issue. I've got some issue with that. I'm not sure how it could be improved. But coming to the Aston Martin actually had the least number of printed elements at 15, and also had a low number of stickers. So it didn't have a lot of decoration going for it. If we look at the kind of the rest of the car, I've got the livery colouring very low because it's just the wrong green. And it's the second time they've done it, so it kind of annoys me. So I've rated it lower than it would have done otherwise, I think. But the overall design's quite good. It looks good, but the colour's wrong. Let's put it that way. And there's some funny little things like this black piece here. I'm not sure why that's black. There's some things about it that are kind of really good, and some bits that aren't that good. Number of building steps, it's quite low at 99. But here we've got the Alpine. This has got the lowest number of building steps at 91. And it does impact the whole design because it also reduces the building complexity figure. So this is also the lowest building complexity. It's at 6 out of 10. It's got, low number of decorations. So there's lots of things kind of dragging this down. The livery's 7.5, and I've got the overall design at 7. It's just kind of missing some stuff. This line's it's all just like a rectangular block here. It's kind of It's too much, or lacking some design, I guess is probably the best way to put it. And then we're coming to Haas. Haas had the least number of pieces at 242. I quite like the design, but the livery is lacking a little bit, and building complexity is lacking a bit. Somehow it all works. And part of it is this design through here, because we've got this nice slope through here. We've got these nice angles here. It's reduced compared to some of the other cars. And I think it could even be improved a little bit by lowering this by one plate. That would make this whole lot lower, and that might improve it as well. But yeah, 242 pieces, you can really see that in some elements of the design. Okay, V-carb. I really like this car, but one of the things that really lets it down is this livery, and maybe that needs to be highlighted because that's actually the worst. This colour is way off compared to the real car, and that's a shame. I've got the building complexity also low because apart from this shaping through here, the rest of the build is not very complex. And I quite like this whole shape through here and the way these was all shaping. I think that's quite fun. So I've given it a higher rating than kind of the livery and the complexity would warrant. But yeah, I think the whole car looks really good. So that's why I've kept that overall design rating up. Then we come to the Williams. And the Williams is really middle ground, right? There's nothing highlighted. It's got 5 studs showing. It's got 7 building complexity. It's got some quite nice colouring and some nice flow through the car. I quite like this look of this part. I like the multiple blues that are being used. So some parts of it I do like. I've given it an overall of 8. But nothing standing out here. Nothing standing out. Then coming to the last car, Sauber. And when I was building this, I was also thinking, I've left it to last, but it's actually one of the better builds. It had the most building steps by quite a lot at 119. Remember, some of the cars were kind of at the 99, and the worst was 91. So there's a lot more steps at 28 more steps than the lowest one. It also had the least number of printed elements and stickers, and it was joint lowest for the printed elements, but it also had the lowest number of stickers. So it only had 39 either in total decorations, so that's low. But we've got this really nice brick built line through here, so the brick built design elements, that's raised up. So that's also part of the building steps. We've got a nice shape through. So those things add up, and that helps elevate the car on the kind of the overall design side. That gives us a much higher rating. So we've kind of looked at the rating of all the cars, looked at the total dimensions. All of them are basically too short and way too tall compared to kind of the scale of the car. So we kind of have to discount that, but sticking with these criteria, let's see how they ended up. So McLaren, our 2024 winner, unfortunately are not the winner here. So their robustness figure really drags them down, and they had the most studs showing. They had the best from building complexity side of things, but kind of everything else is middle ground. And they also had the most stickers, which I forgot to highlight. So that was massive, but it didn't help, if you like. They were middle ground for piece count and building steps. They weren't anywhere near the bottom, but they weren't the top either. But so I've given them an overall design of 8, but I've put them in 9th. Because of this robustness and studs showing, and just the robustness was really, really painful. Then coming to Ferrari really got a lot of love from the Lego design team. They had 61 decorations in total and 275 pieces, so by far the most pieces. It had only 2 studs showing, so the livery was also really good. Building complexity wasn't that great, but I've rated them highly. I've given them an overall design of 9 and a position of 2nd. Red Bull, they are number one. I've given them a 9.5 for the overall design. The kind of only downside of this model was that the colour wasn't right. And I don't know if Lego have the right coloured pieces to build in this kind of Red Bull blue. But yeah, the car itself looked fantastic. So I'm rating it number one. Mercedes, just like in the real season, they didn't stand out anywhere. They were kind of in the middle everywhere, only with the studs showing where they low. But I've rated them number 3 because while they're kind of in rating order here, almost in order for the season, our friends at McLaren have kind of let themselves down with this robustness. So I put Mercedes at number 3. Aston Martin, also kind of everywhere, kind of middle of the ground. Their overall design 8.5, but they're just falling behind the Kick Sauber, which we'll talk about in a minute. So they're at 6th. Then we've come to Alpine. And Alpine, we're kind of really let down with this number of building steps at 91. That just impacts it. They had a low number of decorations at 46. They were the second lowest. But at this way lower, as you can see here with Kick Sauber at 119, way lower number of building steps, and that impacted them. Brick built design was 7. The livery was 7.5. Overall design was 7. So that they just didn't get as much love as some of the other designs. So I've put them at number 10. Haas, while I really like this design, and it had good use of parts and stuff, it just somehow it didn't end up being high enough up on my ranking or on my kind of love of the design. I gave it really high score here for the brick built design elements because of some of those bits and some of the way that the pieces worked in the livery. So it got an 8.5 for that. But just building complexity was a 7. Livery was a 7.5. And maybe it could have been a bit higher. I don't know. Overall design I thought was really good at 8.5. So I've put them in 8th. VCarb, while they didn't have the highest score livery, with the decorations, which impacts their livery, they weren't low, right? They were in the, I think they were 3rd overall. So they got a reasonable amount of love from the Lego design team. But they had the second lowest number of building steps, and again, this building complexity was low, and the livery, the blue from that car is just totally wrong. It looks great, don't get me wrong, it looks great. So overall design, I got an 8.5, but the livery is just wrong. And I think that would have elevated the car higher if the colour had been right. So I've put them in 4th. The Williams, they're kind of low all the way through. Building complexity was a 7, but the rest was pretty good. But so they've moved themselves up, even though there were some bits that weren't that interesting to build, but they're, for example, above the Haas because of their overall score somehow has worked out better than the Haas, and maybe it's because of the livery. Maybe I should change those two. I don't know. And then the Kick Sauber is last. I've put them at 5th because of a couple of factors. The overall design I thought was really good. The number of building steps made a big difference here. They had the least kind of total number of decorations. So if we look at the printed elements, the Aston Martin and the Kick Sauber had the lowest number of printed elements, and the Kick Sauber had by far the lowest number of stickers. So even the next one up was the Alpine at 29. So they had 5 stickers less than the Alpine. They had 16 stickers less than McLaren, which is quite amazing. And if you look at the total at 39, the next worst is 46. If you compare it to Ferrari at 61, it's kind of ridiculous. 22 decorations less than the Ferrari. Again, they had all these extra building steps. So it made it a more fun build. So I've elevated them to 5th. So we have a winner, the RB20. And I really like this car. I think the whole thing works. I love the design elements around here with this side pods, the printed elements, even the stickers work. The color, okay, the blue is not 100% correct, fine. We got some points off for that. But I really like this design. But what do you guys think? Would you put this car in first, or would you put one of the other cars in first position? So I'd love to hear what you guys think. What did you think of my rating system itself? Did I use the right type of criteria, or kind of would you do something else? What points would you issue for each one of these cars? Look forward to hearing your comments, seeing what you think, and until next time, bye. Please click to subscribe for more videos and watch my build and review videos by clicking here. Thank you.